It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? We do, you do. From the Dixieline Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, coming off a great sports weekend, we welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Road trip, baby. We're broadcasting from upstate New York near the Canadian border in the Adirondacks for the next hour or so. We're going to do sports talk the way it should be done. My co-host John Riley is back in the heat, the humidity of San Diego in the master control at his castle. This podcast brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. You've got projects, they've got materials. You want ideas, they can be your consultant, become your best friend. 9 locations to serve you, more than 100 years in business, serving people in Southern California. Dixieline Lumber. John Riley, good afternoon. Hey, this is going to be fun. We had hoped to do this outside, but the wind has come up on the lake, a little bit too stormy, so we're doing it from our cottage. Hopefully the connectivity will hold up again. Cross your fingers. But we'll get a lot of topics on the table. Boy, there are so many stories breaking. The dominoes started to fall in the world of sports. Lots to cover. How you doing?
Doing great, man. You were just telling me before we went on the air that you ran into a big biker convention up in the Alexandria Bay, and boy, a lot of unusual things happened to you on the road.
I'll tell you, it was really unique. Harley-Davidson Club of America. And there were more than 500 bikers showed up, Hells Angels and bike club members. I mean, it was really novel. Nice guys, fun, drank a lot of beer, I'm sure, took up all the hotel rooms, took up all the bandwidth on the connectivity. That's why we had problems with the last podcast. But it was kind of interesting to see another slice of Americana. Hey, just a couple of business notes. When we're done with topics on the table, because we do sports talk the way it should be done on my podcast, when we're done, we open it up. John Riley's section takes over. It's called Fans Forum. John, for all the viewers, how does that work?
Yeah, Fans Forum is your chance to get involved. You know, we're bi-coastal here, so we're on the East Coast, West Coast. You got a hot take in the world of sports. Just type in your comment or question for Lee in the live chat on X, on YouTube, or on Facebook. We'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
Now, you like sports? I write on my sports website every day of the week. I have just posted a one man's opinion column, mid-season report card on the San Diego Padres. So everybody who was on this podcast, and we talk a ton of baseball, get a lot of response from baseball fans. I want you to tell me whether you agree or disagree. It's posted on my podcast right now, my mid-season report card on the Padres organization, from ownership to leadership to the roster to the dugout. That's on One Man's Opinion page on my website, leehacksawhamilton.com. Want you to join my social media team. When you do that, become part of the Twitter All-Star group. Every time I post something on X, you'll get the alert. You'll know what's going on there. Want you to share. Tell everybody in your address book, your Rolodex, if you will, that we're on the air Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, and we cover a ton of topics every podcast we do. And we want you to subscribe. When you subscribe on the YouTube channel, that gives you an alert every time we put additional videos up on our YouTube channel. And John and I do that all hours of the day, and sometimes even at 2:30 in the morning. And we want you to give us a thumbs up, give us a 5-star rating, give us a like, because that really helps us. John, I covered all the business. We've now cleared the deck so we can cover topics on the table. Where do you want to start?
You know, the Padres game on Sunday, man, that was brutal. I want to hear your take on all this, Lee.
Burning question. Nice headline. Do you have faith in the Friars? That's the bullet point question of the day. You need to go to the Fans Forum chat box right now and respond. You baseball fans, you're leading off the show. We want to hear what you've got to say. Lost weekend in Cincinnati. My God. 8 no-hit innings from ex-Padre Nick Martinez against his teammates on Friday. Wow. Came back, nice performance on Saturday. Come back on Sunday, blow the lead in the 9th inning. Robert Suarez is really staggering a little bit right now with a variety of pitches. He gets tagged with another loss on top of a blown save. not a good look. And the Padres right now, I think, have got just significant issues because these meltdowns are happening more often than not. You know, the Padres at one point, John, were 14-3. Do you know they're 31-35 since that 14-3 start? Do you know against the elite teams that they've played on the schedule, they're only 7-16? This team right now has a sub 500 record against anybody they play that has a winning record. So this Padre baseball team is not a complete team. We still have all the issues that we've talked about a great deal. We're a month away from the baseball trading deadline. So at the end of the day, because of A.J. Preller, and he has people everywhere scouting, I do think there's going to be one acquisition, but they really need to do something different. I don't understand what's happened to Fernando Tatis aside from what I think is an injury, because they're surely not talking about anything, and they're surely not leading anybody on that they're really concerned about where this guy is. But how is this guy hit 188 in the month of May, and now is a combined batting average of 205 from May leading into tonight's game in Philadelphia? And Manny Machado's on a second down cycle group of games. He's hitting 222 most recently after a real bad stretch during the month of May. Jackson Miller's playing pretty well. Xander Bogaerts is hitting a little bit better. Cronenworth really is not. Gavin Sheets has done about as much as Gavin Sheets could do. Iglesias has had some big hits and is playing really good defense. The team is obviously still wafer thin on pitching. This is not a complete baseball team. My midseason report card, I guess I gave them a B, but what really worries me, what bothers me, concerns me, a B, and the arrow's pointing down, because this team does not look like it's really ready to be a playoff team. Can guys come back and hit? Sure. But have you seen that at all from Tatis and Machado? And those are the two marquee players on the roster. This is just not a good situation with Padre baseball right now. John, your response?
Yeah, that game Sunday was brutal, man. I mean, it was a tight game all the way. You're kind of on the edge of your seat, and then it all goes to hell in the ninth. You feel like you wasted 3 hours of your day. But, you know, Suarez is kind of, I don't know, it just seems like, it seems almost like he loses confidence or something, because once things start to go sideways a bit, a lot of times they fall apart, and that's what we saw on Sunday. But in the end, I'm not going to blame Suarez or the pitchers, because generally speaking, they're doing a good job. It's the hitting that's been awful. You've talked about Machado and Tatis is a big problem. But remember, we were talking, we discussed this, I think, last week about Tatis and the lawsuit about getting that advance money when he was a kid in the Dominican Republic. I mean, he's got a lot of other things going on in his life. That must be like hanging on his head, don't you think?
Well, it might well be, but at the end of the day, he gets paid to produce and gets paid to play. And he looks so out of sync offensively and has looked all that way ever since he got plunked on May the 3rd. So to me, it's a big concern as to where the Padres are right now, because this is not a complete baseball team. And now the cornerstone guys are not producing with a kind of consistency or all-star level that they were in the past. That being said, they've got between now and July 31st to find a way to pull the trigger on some type of acquisition. General manager has always done it. So I guess I am trusting in AJ to find a way to do something here. But like I said, you got to read my one man's opinion column that I just posted, and you tell me whether you agree or disagree, because I went every player on the roster, starter to sub to bench bunch to guys from the minor leagues called up, sent back, etc. So I give him a B, but I'm concerned because it's B with the arrow pointing down. Because the other guys, the Dodgers, the arrow is pointing up. That's the second topic on the table. John, go ahead, post a new headline.
Yeah, here we go. The arrow is pointed up with the Dodgers.
This team's good. This team is hot. This team is slugging their way. And now this team is starting to win because all the injured pitchers in the rotation are almost all back. I guess the most unique thing we saw on the weekend was Shohei Ohtani going 2 innings in the start in Kansas City, John. He was clocked at 101.7. He struck out 2 batters in the 2+ innings, and they're just continuing to grow him slowly. That's pretty impressive. Did you ever think you and I'd be talking about Clayton Kershaw having a 4-0 record after all the surgeries and a 3.03 ERA? And the Dodgers are banged up in the bullpen. There's no doubt about that. But They continue to rely on Tanner Scott. They continue to get more good outings than into bad outings. And the Dodgers have taken what was a half-game lead over the Padres and have now made it a 7-game lead over the Padres. And to me, the Dodger arrow is pointed up. The Dodger letter grade is A. And despite all their adversity, and it's been significant, they're starting to pull away from virtually everybody else in the National League West. This has been really impressive what the Dodgers have been able to do. And we're only looking at upside with Ohtani, and the injured relievers in the bullpen are about to come off the disabled list. They're all throwing rehab assignments. So it looks like they're going to get stronger while the Padres are still trying to find answers to their issues. John, reaction?
Reaction. Frankly, I mean, at this point of the season, I thought the Dodgers would have even a better record than they have right now. I mean, because, they had all that trouble. They've gone through some, a little bit of lulls, but they just have so much depth, so much like wiggle room that they can stumble a little bit and it's no big deal. And then, and the Padres, they blow that, they had a chance to win the series in Cincinnati and they kind of let that slip through their fingers. Yeah. I mean, the Dodgers are doing what we expected. The Padres they'd be all right if Tatis would perform as Fernando Tatis should, if our guys hit the way they should. But what can you say about LA? I mean, they brought up in the Padre game over the weekend, a question of whether or not Manny or Max Muncy should start at third base for the All-Star team because they reset the voting apparently and they start from scratch. Muncy has no chance taking that, but maybe the fans might vote for him because he's popular with the best team.
Well, the whole thing to me is a little bit fraudulent when they invite me and you to vote 5 times a day. Come on. You're rigging the thing. It's like the old Chicago mayoral elections. Max Muncy has had 2 decent weeks of baseball, and his defense is a little iffy. Machado's hitting 290, 298, and playing pretty solid defensively, though his errors are up. Now, Machado is the starting third baseman, although he's probably getting some push. Nolan Arenado, who we thought was going to be buried in St. Louis, has become one of the cornerstones in this resurgence of Cardinal baseball, coupled with pretty good pitching. So Arenado has pushed himself into this mix, but I think Machado has to be the guy. And by the way, do you know why they put erasers on pencils? So when you make a statement that doesn't make sense, I can erase it. You said you thought the Dodger record would be a little bit better. John, put your glasses on. Would you please check the standings in the newspaper or on your laptop? Dodger record is 53-32, and that's with 18 pitchers on the disabled list.
But before when the season was about to start, we thought they were going to go like 150-12, and that was before all the pitchers got hurt and everything else. So seriously, I mean, we're say we as a Padre fan 7 games back. That's horrible, but it sounds like it could be a hell of a lot worse. So the Dodgers are going to just clean up. They're going to win. They're going to they have all their cavalries coming in. You just got to let it ride out. And once you get to the playoffs, then anything can happen. I think that's the way you have to look at it as a Giants fan or a Padre fan.
Okay, that's all things Padres, all things Dodgers, and the Fans Forum chat box is open. And you need to pile in early because this thing's going to clog up like the I-5-405 interchange. John, third topic on the table as it relates to the other team in Southern California. I wish I had good news, but I don't.
Oh, you don't? Well, the Angels, lose the manager and lose games.
41-42 on the season. For every little hot streak they put together, then they hit a skid. The bigger story is Ron Washington is now gone for the rest of the season. They're not talking about the specifics of the health issue, aside to say that it is solvable. I'm led to believe it has to be a change in lifestyle. He's had breathing problems. He has fatigue problems. I hope it's not heart valve related issue. He's not coming back. So they will be in an interim situation with managers. For the most part, their roster has been healthy with a lot of young kids. And the Zach Nitos of the world, the O'Hoppes and the Chanels will have a good 10 days and then have a 10 days where they don't hit. Mike Trout has had a quiet reemergence as a solid guy, not superstar statistics, but doing about as much as he can. They've lost Jorge Soler again on the disabled list. Now he's got nerve issues in his back. And the bullpen is springing leaks. They already lost their closer, the 105-mile-an-hour guy, Ben Joyce, and now Kenley Jansen. He's blown his first save. His ERA has started to go up. So they're just really short in terms of pitching. I don't know that there's very much out there that Perry Manassian can do in terms of trading things. The one guy I think that they have to evaluate with what his role should be is the former #1 draft pick, Reed Detmers. He's had stretches out of the pen where he's pitched well. Maybe they just need to consider making him the closer if they're not going to put him back in the starting rotation. Bullpen right now is really an issue, and obviously pitching depth too. But to me, the loss of a guy that has really gotten a lot of beloved comments from a lot of people around baseball about Ron Washington and this personal health issue. Now to lose him completely, that's a real tough call. So I don't think they're going to lose 99, but they're obviously not going to be a playoff team either because they just don't have enough components and they don't have a leader.
Yeah, I mean, Ron Washington, good guy. I know the Padres considered hiring him. He's got a great. I mean, he won a World Series with the Rangers, or did they go to the World Series and not win it?
No, he went with them. Yes.
Yeah, I think they lost to the Giants in one of those World Series when he was the manager. But, you know, the Angels, one game under 500, that's far better than I think any of us would have expected. So going into this, you know, trade deadline season, you think the Angels are going to be sellers rather than buyers? I mean, is a wild card completely out of the question for the Angels?
I think it's a long hill to run up, and they just don't have enough pitching to run up. And obviously they got guys that are dinged. And again, who are you going to trade? If Mike Trout would bring you a bushel full of talent, Mike Trout does not want to be traded. And he's got a no-trade clause in his contract. So they are what they are. If they can be anything better than a 99-loss team, then that will be progress. And they still have young guys that are probably deliverable and on the way. So that's Dodgers, that's Padres, that's Angels. Feel free, jump into the Fans Forum chat box if you have an opinion on that. Other baseball notes, boy, we got some trouble spots around the league. John, where do you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, and we lost one of the great ones here in Major League Baseball, Dave Parker.
The Cobra has passed away. Dave Parker, fierce competitor, unbelievable physical specimen, 19 years in Major League Baseball. And the most saddest part about this, he just passed away on the weekend at age 74. It took him forever to get voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. And he was supposed to be enshrined in person next month in Cooperstown. And now it will be posthumously. Passed away after a 10-year fight with Parkinson's disease. But boy, he was a terror. 290 career batting average, 323 home runs, force in the dugout, bigger force in clubhouses. And the stories that have evolved in the last 48 hours since Dave Parker passed away of his influence on young ball players, whether it was a young Eric Davis, whether it was Barry Larkin, whether it was the guys he was with while with the Angels for a short period at the tail end of the career. I mean, this guy was monstrously huge in terms of personality, persona, leadership. And of course, they called him the Cobra because of the way he swung on the bat. And think about this intangible, John, how hard it was for him to become the star right fielder in Pittsburgh. When you consider whom he replaced Roberto Clemente. When Clemente died in that plane crash in the Caribbean while making food delivery to earthquake victims. He died. Parker, as a young player, wound up going into right field, and he became an icon. And he became the cornerstone of the We Are Family Pittsburgh Pirates. Willie Stargell, Al Oliver, Manny Sanguian. I mean, that was collectively quite an exciting time in Pittsburgh. And just how sad. He was a month away. He could not speak. He was bound to a wheelchair. But when they announced that he was going to be enshrined in the Baseball Hall of Fame, they had video of him sitting up in his wheelchair and doing this to the baseball fans and thanking him. So tough loss in Pittsburgh. Next topic on the table. Can you believe the New York Mets? The New York Mets, and I said this during spring training, and then they had this nice start. I said they didn't have enough pitching. They now have 5 of their top 6 starting pitchers on the disabled list. The latest was Griff Canning, went down with a ruptured Achilles tendon over the weekend. He's now gone. They've never gotten Sean Manaea back yet. Did not get Frankie Montas, the free agent, ever back. He's still not back. They're just really busted up, really beaten up. And the Mets go into Pittsburgh to play the last place Pirates on a 3-game series. They get swept and they get outscored 30-4 by the last place Pittsburgh Pirates. And there was a chunk of video that I saw yesterday that to me is the epitome of some of the things going on with the Mets. Here are the Mets getting blown out 9-1, 9-2, 10-1, 3 straight games by the last place Buccos. Juan Soto hits a home run in one of the losses. And he stands at home plate and watches the ball sail out of PNC Park, turns to his own dugout, and he's pounding his own chest. Like, look at me, look at me, look what I accomplished. While they're getting their ass kicked 3 straight games by a last place team. Self-serving outfielder. And that's part and parcel some of the things that's wrong with New York Mets baseball. Alonso has stopped hitting. Soto's not hitting for average, hitting an occasional home run. And look at me, look at me. Do you know, John, the Mets are 2-12 in this latest tailspin. And they're going to have to ride this out because they're not going to tear the roster apart. They just have to find a way to get some pitchers healthy. But the Soto thing to me was just the epitome of who he is, Mr. Me, Myself, and I. And the third item, the Athletics. This is pretty controversial. You know, they made a trade to get veteran pitcher Luis Severino, who was let go by the Mets. Severino shows up, supposed to be the front end of this rebuilt Athletics pitching rotation. He's really scuffled. He's really struggled. He did an interview with my friend Bob Nightingale, USA Today, over the weekend. Big article talking about how everything is wrong in Sacramento. It is minor league in every aspect of baseball. And he says, we become a road team. We're on the road all the time. We have no home field advantage. He flashed all these statistics that he did research on that shows Sacramento is the worst place in all of baseball, ranked 30th for a pitcher to pitch in. His ERA is 6.27 at home. He can't get guys out because balls keep flying out of this minor league stadium with the minor league dimensions. He says everything from the clubhouse to the food is just minor league. And he says we go to major league ballparks. It's like a breath of fresh air. And he says we are a road team for the entire 162-game schedule. And he's asked to be traded. And they gave him a contract extension. It's an utter disaster. And by the way, Severino's not washed up. He's got like a 2.42 ERA on the road and a 6.27 ERA when it's to pitch in the minor league ballpark. It says minor league baseball in every facet. Ouch. Okay, so go ahead. Talk about the Cobra. Talk about Mr. Me, Myself, and I. And talk about what Severino says.
But just the A's have just had such a tough go for so long, you know, and just the way they're bungling the whole rollout of the move to Vegas. But we have to talk about Dave Parker. I mean, again, I kind of first got to, you know, recognize him with that We Are Family era there in the late 70s. And Willie Stargell was sort of the big pops of the whole thing. But Dave Parker was a youngin'. But how about that world? It was an all-star game, and he got a ball out in right field and just threw a cannon shot to home. I think to Gary Carter. I think he might have tagged out Bobby Grich. I mean, that was one of the all-timers. You remember that one, Lee?
Yeah. I mean, he had a cannon for an arm, and he had no fear because he was big and physical. He's not afraid to run into walls, not afraid to bust over catchers, crashing in at home plate, taking out people at double plays. He's just, I guess I would call him real hard-nosed, old school. He was a really fine player. And he had a scowl to him that I think scared the hell out of rookies and even young players. There's a story going around about young Eric Davis kind of met up with him in the back of the near the clubhouses and just asked him some tips on baseball. And Dave Parker said, "Do you want to talk to me?" As if, you know, how dare you come to me? And they started to laugh. And he gave Eric Davis a whole bunch of tips. Did the same thing for Barry Larkin. So I mean, the stories that have kind of surfaced now with his passing. Just really impressive guy. And just how cruel to have this a month before he's supposed to go to Cooperstown. We're in person in a wheelchair. He could have given everybody the thumbs up. So kind of a tough loss, but he beloved in Pittsburgh. Holy cow, beloved as part of that We Are Family group.
Yeah. I mean, what a guy. And I think he played for the A's there in the late 80s when they went to the World Series. But, you know, the story that I heard, you know, I didn't hear this back in the day. I just heard it last a few days ago, is that he would sometimes wear a Star of David necklace. And one of the players says, "Why are you wearing that? You know, you're not Jewish." And he says, "Well, hey, my name's Dave and I'm a star." So I just thought that was a great line. I mean, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Are you going to comment on Mr. Me, Myself, and I, or are you just going to walk past that one?
Oh, Jesus. I mean, Soto is such a piece of work. I mean, I'm already seeing some of the guys on the live chat piling in, and like Richard is already saying, I go to bed every night thanking the baseball gods we didn't sign Soto. So a lot of teams must be thinking that, maybe we avoided this. This guy is going to be just a negative influence in the clubhouse. We saw that in San Diego.
Not negative in the clubhouse, just all about himself. I mean, I've never seen anything as stupid as that. Look at me. He's pounding his chest. Look at what I did. You're losing 9-1, 9-2, 10-1. Look at me. You got to be kidding me. Okay. Well, it's all
the funny. I want to just say this. One of the funniest pieces of artwork I've seen is that he's wearing a shirt with him on the shirt, talking about how great of a ball player he is. So yeah, me, myself, and I.
Okay, that's all things baseball. We're not done. We got a ton of topics on the table as our Monday bonus podcast continues. I'm on the road in my cottage in the Northern Adirondacks. He's back there in the castle in the studio. Hacksaw and the guy with his opinions from left field, John Riley. And of course, when we're done, Fans Forum chat box, we're going to ask you to participate. That's why we cut a piece of this pie out for you to join us. First time, long timers, lovers, and even haters are invited to jump on board. We're changing topics from baseball. Where do you want to go next, John?
Yeah, let's talk about the Lakers. I know LeBron is going to be coming back, but now the waiting game begins.
Nice headline. Let's talk about the Lakers situation. First item, LeBron James invokes the opt-in clause on his contract to pay him $56.2 million this coming season. Then his agent hands out a press release saying LeBron is staying. LeBron believes that the Lakers have to make this a championship team around my client. Made no reference at all about the transaction that got them Luka Doncic, another superstar, to put next to LeBron in the middle of the season. And then the agent started dropping hints that we have to do this, we have to do that. Another player opted out of his contract, and now it looks like they're losing him. Dorian Finney-Smith, the defensive specialist, the guard forward, who played pretty well for the Lakers after the trade from Dallas, opted out, and the Lakers are not going to re-sign him. Rumors he's going somewhere else pretty quickly. Free agent window opens tomorrow. So this will be very interesting to see how they configure what this roster should be. The Lakers have about $14.8 million in budget space to try to go get a free agent, a rim protector. We've kind of talked extensively, but let me throw this at you. LeBron's made more money than God. Why does he need $56.2 million? Why wouldn't he do what the team across the hallway did? Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, remember them taking discounts, signing at a lot less than the max so the Clippers could continue to stockpile people around their stars? Now, that was one of the ways that James Harden wound up going there. Why does LeBron have to make 56.2, take less money, give them more cap space to go get more quality players? But no, LeBron and his agent, it's always got to be the max on anything and everything. So now the burning question is, how are they going to solve this thing? I'm told they're going to meet tomorrow with Brooke Lopez, great veteran center at Milwaukee Bucks. But he's been here before. We've seen that. I think there's limitations. They've continued to have the dialogue with Walker Kessler of Utah. But is he the right fit? Now, he's younger than any of the other guys they're looking at. And I think there's some dynamics to him, but he's more of a plotter than he is a setter that's going to go up and down the floor and make some plays. They're talking to Portland about Robert Williams. Once upon a time, was a pretty active center with Boston. Went to Portland, suffered a major knee injury. Again, you're taking a guy off the injured list and hope he can be what he was 3 or 4 years ago. That remains to be seen. They're talking about Clint Capella, who's strictly a rebounder and a shot blocker with the Atlanta Hawks. And now there's another rumor out there that this agent from Clutch Sports may be trying to position LeBron in a sign-and trade to Cleveland to let him go back home and win a ring one more time for the hometown Cavaliers, he, of course, being from Akron. But the question is, what are the Lakers going to get? Could Cleveland take on $56 million? Oh, by the way, if you want to make this deal, then maybe you got to give me Darius Garland, and you got to give me Evan Mobley, and you got to give me a number 1 pick. Oh, by the way, Cleveland, LeBron is age 40. I just don't see this happening, but that's one of the rumors out there. LeBron's agent may be trying to maneuver a deal for another homecoming for King James back in Cleveland. So at the end of the day, I just get the sense that half the Laker fans who join us on this podcast don't like LeBron. Now they got another check mark as to why they don't like LeBron. Could have taken less, given him more money, or is the agent trying to pull a power play and get this guy shipped back home to finish his career in the 216 area code? So keep an eye on that. The Lakers, by the way, in the draft, wound up with a defensive specialist from Arkansas. But I don't quite understand Adam Thiero, who comes from Arkansas in the SEC. He's just like Rui Hachimura. Why do you need another Rui Hachimura, unless Hachimura is going to be included in some type of transaction to go get another center? So there's just a lot of unique and different things going on. It all swirls around King James. And by the way, is King James going to leave and leave his kid Bronny here? That'd promptly be followed by his outright release, I would think, if that were the case. John, all things LeBron, all things Lakers. I'm sure you got an opinion on this.
Yeah, I do. Now, first of all, I can never blame a person for refusing to take less in a signed contract. You know, if it was deferred money, maybe, but you don't give up what you've rightfully earned. So I don't blame him for not taking less money.
You always side the players. You're a bloody capitalist every minute of every hour of every day.
It's a contract, and so it's right there. It's not like, hey man, you're at extra $690, and John Lynch Sr. rolls into your office, say, Hacksaw, we need to cut half your pay and go give it to this young Jim Rome fella. I mean, you wouldn't go for that. I mean, would you?
Boy, you you've stepped over the line. So now the truth will come out. I will tell you, in the early years of 690, when we had money problems, me and a couple of guys from 91X talked to management and ownership about taking a pay cut for one full year to help them so they could rally back financially. Of course, I put a proviso on there. We're willing to do this if upper level management is willing to give back money too. Well, that didn't happen. But so, John, you had to step into that. See, you stepped on it. Now you got to clean your shoes. You brought that topic up, and now you got that stuff on your shoes.
Yeah, there's Hacksaw, on the cross, the martyrs to save 690 for the greater good. Well, anyways, I don't blame him for that. I mean, going back to Cleveland just makes a lot of sense. It's like Willie Mays going back to play for the Mets. And Cleveland had a disappointing season. Maybe they want to shake it up. I don't know, but I know Laker fan would be overjoyed. And whatever you got back for LeBron, you've got more building blocks that you can maybe assemble something. To me, that would be great if LeBron went to Cleveland. I mean, for the Lakers, it would be great.
John Riley, ever the capitalist. Do you print dollar bills in your hallway? Okay, that's the latest on the Lakers. Let's talk about the Clippers situation, John.
Yeah, getting older, getting better.
Good question, Mark. Boy, your headlines are really cooking today, John. They got age. They got payroll issues. Now, they like him. I just see a different side of James Harden. To me, the whole thing is about what have you done in postseason recently? Not much. James Harden opts out of his $36.3 million last year contract, turns around and is given a 2-year contract extension with a pay raise of $41 million per season. Still got the same team, still got a lot of age. They tried to make the deal to get Jrue Holiday. That did not work with Boston. Now there's all kinds of rumors out there. They're talking to Chris Paul. In fact, the one report is he might be in LA tomorrow to actually go through a face-to-face meeting. Chris Paul's had a great career, good role player, San Antonio. But is he the volume scorer you really want? You're not going back to Russell Westbrook, are you? So I just don't quite understand the methodology of what they're doing, just like I don't understand them giving Harden $41 million each year for the next 2 years when we know postseason, most important time of the year, he's not done very, very well. Nick Batum, a three-point shooter and kind of a defensive specialist, opted out. But an hour before we were going on, Batum just signed a 2-year contract extension to stay there. They did sign a free agent, Kobe Sanders, kid that played at Nevada Reno, firepower guard, etc. So this bears watching us to see where they're going, but they've got to add youth and athleticism, and giving Harden another extension and tying him down with more cap space over the next 2 winters. I just don't understand that. I'm not so sure I buy it. John, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised Chris Paul's still playing ball. I mean, how old is he? He's got to be in his late 30s, right?
Yeah, it's 39, I think.
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me. But isn't it interesting? You know, the numbers we're throwing around here for salaries. It's like monopoly money. It almost doesn't feel real. And like James Harden, 40 million. I mean, some of the top NFL quarterbacks are making 40 to 50 million, maybe a little more than that. So it just seems that disproportionately NBA players really make a lot, you know, compared to their skill level, I guess, you know, and their value. They seem to make a lot more. And so James Harden, he's on the tail end of his career and he's still getting 41. I mean, wow, good to be him.
You just didn't make a U-turn in the middle of the New York State Thruway, did you? The New York are going to come here. You're the one that just 30 seconds ago proposing take every penny you can from the owners, and now you're critiquing what the players are getting. You can't.
No, they should take every penny. James Harden deserves that money. If you can get it a written contract, that is evidence that you deserve it because someone's willing to pay it. But it just seems like an outrageous amount of money, you know, the way this whole thing is playing out. I don't know. For the Clippers, I just don't have confidence Kawhi is going to have an injury-free year. I don't know about James Harden. If James Harden, you know, pulled a hamstring and was out for 2 or 3 months, I'd believe it, you know. So I know that Steve Ballmer wants to win. He likes his guys. He's gonna take care of his guys. I appreciate that ethically, but I don't see it coming. And by the way, that Kobe Sanders kid's from San Diego that's playing for the Clippers. So that's pretty cool that he might make that roster.
Okay, that's all things Lakers, all things Clippers. You got an opinion. Fans Forum chat box is stacking up here, so feel free to jump on board with a question, a comment, and answer. NBA Notebook. Got a whole bunch of things here we're going to yak about. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, the NBA Notebook. And look at all these teams up here, starting with the Warriors.
I don't quite understand this method of operation. Jonathan Kuminga has been a little bit behind the power curve in terms of development. He's the kid out of Africa. Hardly ever played basketball. Put him in the G League. He really grew quickly. Big 6'9" kid, shooter, a little bit streaky. Got hurt in the middle of the season. Anyhow, Golden State is facing this question. Do they give him a multi-year contract extension right now? Or do they just offer him a 1-year called qualifying offer, which means they have a right to match anything else? Well, if that's the case, he's going to get on the open market. Somebody else can make a run at him. I've heard San Antonio. I've heard others. The question is, you're going to pay him anyhow. Why wouldn't you just sign him and prevent this from happening? What if somebody makes an obscene offer for Jonathan Kuminga based on his potential and his growth? It'd be devastating, I think, if Golden State lost him because he's the next breed of young guys. He's not there in terms of stardom yet, but you see the flashes. Anyhow, Kuminga is going on the open market effective tomorrow. He's got a qualifying offer attached to his driver's license, which means they can match and then sign and trade him somewhere else. But you let him get on the market, then he might go away, walk away free. So that's item one. Chicago Bulls. Lonzo Ball has been traded. Again, Lonzo Ball, former UCLA player for half a semester. You know about him, his father, his brothers. You know about the catastrophic injury and the knee cartilage experimental replacement surgery. Took him 2 years to come back from. Played pretty well the second half of last season when he finally got on the floor after 23 months of intensive rehab. I think he averaged 7 points, 5 assists per game, 3 rebounds. Anyhow, it's been traded to the Cavaliers in a deal for a fringe forward. So Lonzo Ball's address is going to change again. Atlanta Hawks, congratulations. This is well-deserved. He made himself an NBA candidate for a roster spot. Lamont Butler, Aztecs, who went to Kentucky, final year in the transfer portal, had a nice season for UK, signs a free agent contract, was undrafted. He winds up going to the Atlanta Hawks. Utah Jazz, Charlotte. This is a surprise trade that came down last night. Utah's traded high-scoring guard Colin Sexton. He goes to the Charlotte Hornets in a trade for Jusuf Nurkic, big centerman. Now, I'm curious if that's the front end of Utah getting Nurkic to come in as a center and moving Walker Kessler to the Lakers. Connect the dots with me on that. We'll see if that one happens. Minnesota's decided to bring them all back. Spent a lot of money to do this. In a span of 24 hours, Minnesota Timberwolves signed Naz Reid, the off-the-bench scorer, to a $25 million a year contract extension, and followed that up by giving Julius Randle 3 years, $100 million. That's $33 million per season in new math, Those two guys are staying with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And a really bad story out of Detroit, and we've not heard the end result of this. Malik Beasley, who's been a kind of a move around the league guard, but can shoot threes and all that, played for the Pistons last year. He's under investigation by the FBI for betting on NBA games in 2023 and the 2024 seasons. He could be looking at a lifetime ban. The agent says he's innocent till proven guilty. Everybody's of the opinion this guy is in a lot of trouble. How could you be a veteran player and be so stupid as to bet on NBA games when everybody knows you don't bet on games in your own sport? So, John, that's what's in the NBA notebook. Don't turn the ball over and don't shoot an air ball. Give me an opinion.
Okay, I got a couple of takes. For the Hawks, I'm thrilled for Lamont Butler. I know it's a 10-day, two-way deal, so hopefully he has a legit chance to prove himself and stick on the NBA roster. And by the way, did you notice that Keyshawn Johnson signed like a $2 million deal with the Heat? So he's going to be sticking around, Lamont's former teammate. And then the other comments, a quick one, the Detroit Pistons thing, that guy, Beasley, if that goes down, gambling, it's obviously a stupid move, but there's still it's such hypocrisy with the NBA with all of the gambling ads and the way everything is sponsored by FanDuel and DraftKings. It just comes off really bad the way they're trying to self-police the league while they're getting money put in their pocket from all these gambling contingents.
What's your thought on the Lonzo Ball situation? Kind of surprised, or he's just kind of a piece of baggage and journeyman?
I just remember when Alonzo Ball got drafted by the Lakers, I think, in the first round. And I remember his shot would spin sideways like planet Earth rather than having a nice backspin. But he just sort of disappeared from the radar with his, blowing out his knee. It's just a shame. But, go to Cleveland, like we were just saying, Cleveland, maybe they're going to retool there. And then, by the way, the Kuminga thing in Golden State, wasn't Golden State sort of bouncing up against the salary cap? Could they even afford to sign him?
In-house free agent, yes. You can pay whatever you want as an in-house free agent. You're prohibited from going outside. But to not make him the multi-year offer, maybe they see potential, but they don't see consistency. But boy, this is a big risk because history, John, has always proven you let a young guy with upside on the open market, somebody else takes and the price goes up and now you can't match it. So it's a big issue there. Okay, that's all things NBA. You got an opinion? Feel free. You are allowed to take a couple jump shots. Just don't hit the side of the basket. When you do, Fans Forum chat box is open for you. We are at halftime. This podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. Whether it's home, whether it's the office, whether it's the back patio, out by the swimming pool, they've got everything from doors and windows to interior design, kitchens, bathrooms, bookcases, you name it. Dixieline is there. John, pick up the flag and just wave it on behalf of Dixieline because you've done a lot of business with them too.
Yeah, Dixieline Lumber, they've been in San Diego for over 100 years, and they're just a great place for if you're a builder, contractor, or you're a do-it-yourself homeowner that just wants to do a kitchen remodel, bath remodel. You need power tools, you need lumber, that sort of thing. Great people. They help out, the homeowners and these new multifamily dwellings and new neighborhoods that are being built throughout Southern California. A lot of times that lumber is coming from Dixieline. And Dixieline is part of a larger corporation called Builders First Source, which is the largest lumber company in America. So, if you do business in San Diego, in Northern California, throughout the USA, your local Dixieline rep here in San Diego, Southern California can help you set up nationwide.
Okay, just a couple of business items before we go to the second half of this Monday bonus podcast. When we're done putting topics on the table, because we do sports talk the way it should be done, when we're done, you take over the podcast. John invented it. John, you're to blame for it. It's pretty popular. Go ahead, take the accolades. How does Fans Forum work?
Yeah, we do sports talk the way it should be done. I like that tagline. I think that's got some legs. By the way, who am I? I'm looking up here on the list here. I see Sarver Group. I see Roy. I see, who is that? Bolgevera. Richard is in there. Showtime. Casey. XX Revolution. I said Richard already. There's Lenny and Chris and John and Derek. Everyone, Callan's in there. Everyone's piling in. So you got a comment or question. A lot of talk here about the Lakers. A lot of talk about Dodgers, Padres. Just drop your question or comment for Hacksaw in the live chat on X, on YouTube, on Facebook. We'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
Okay, just a reminder, one man's opinion column. If you like baseball, pro or con, Dodgers, Padres, Angels fans, whoever you are, I did my midseason report card. I posted it this afternoon on my website. Go to leehacksawhamilton.com, hit the one man's opinion page. By the way, when you go to the website, there's an orange box right there at the top. Fill it out. Join Hacksaw's Insiders group. You'll get on our email list. We send out a couple of 2 emails every day, special stuff for the people on the Insiders group. Want you to share. Tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30 p.m. With apologies in advance, we are bleeping brilliant with what we're doing on this podcast. Want you to subscribe. When you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you will get the alerts every time John or I put special videos up on the YouTube channel, which is quite often during the course of the week. We also want you to give us a thumbs up, give us a 5-star rating, help us grow this thing. And we say congratulations to you because we're now over 8,100 subscribers just to the YouTube channel alone. So it's great that you seem to enjoy what we're doing. We got it all covered on this podcast, Mondays and Thursdays. I'm here in upstate New York at my cottage. He's back there at the castle, the master control. John Riley with us, our Monday bonus podcast. Second half of the podcast, it might be hot. It might be the middle of summer. But tomorrow is a massively big day in the National Hockey League, John.
Yeah, the National Hockey League. You're up there near the Canadian border, so I'm sure everyone's talking hockey up there. Let's put this one up on the board.
Yeah, you're going to love this one. So I'm marching through the airports, catching all these flights to get up here, to go to the St. Lawrence Seaway and then to my cottage. And I'm wearing my Edmonton Oilers hoodie. You cannot believe how many people stopped me and offered condolences to the Edmonton Oilers because I was wearing my Oilers hoodie. And of course, up here, hockey is the second biggest religion outside of Catholicism. It's absolutely phenomenal how many hockey fans pay attention to all the storylines in the NHL, and they all felt really bad for me on behalf of what happened to the Edmonton Oilers. All right, let's just talk hot topics on the table. We've talked about this. It's finally happened. Free John Gibson. You can take the bumper sticker off your car. The Ducks traded the 36-year-old veteran goaltender. He goes to the Detroit Red Wings. In essence, what I guess is a salary dump, although what they're doing doesn't make a lot of sense. But they traded John Gibson to Detroit for veteran goaltender Petr Mrazek. Those two guys' statistics are almost about the even Steven, almost about the same. However, Gibson was making $6.5 million. Mrazek is making $4.2 million. They then turned around and re-signed young goaltender that they got middle of last season from Detroit, Ville Husso, who was down with the San Diego Gulls. They signed him to a 2-year contract. So all they're doing is exchanging dollar bills. They didn't get really beneath salary cap issues because they exported Gibson's contract, but they imported almost $6.7 million in contracts in goals. So I was a little bit surprised there. Edmonton, boy, I tell you what, for every person you talk to, half the people don't like this deal in Vancouver. We're talking about the Edmonton Oilers trading the controversial Evander Kane, his big wide body checking ability, his slap shot, and all the baggage that he carries. He went to the Vancouver Canucks in a trade last week. Vancouver fans are not real happy with that story. A lot of stuff involving the LA Kings. They moved another defenseman off the roster. This was a bit of a surprise, although it didn't fit, I guess. They traded Jordan Spence. He goes to the Ottawa Senators for a 3rd and 6th round draft pick. On top of that, the Kings are trying to create cap space. Guess who they're going to go after? Former Duck, former Edmonton Oiler guy, Corey Perry. They think he would be a difference maker with all the other goal scorers that the LA Kings have on the front end of their roster, lines 1 and 2. Perry, of course, just coming off what was a phenomenal Stanley Cup playoff series with the Edmonton Oilers. So that's one of the rumors out there, that they're looking to make that deal for the LA Kings to add more players there. New York Islanders, Montreal Canadiens. This is a mega trade. The Islanders, who had the number 1 pick in the draft, traded Noah Dobson, really good young defenseman. He goes to Montreal for 2 first-round draft picks this past week in the NHL draft. Montreal is really building some things with a lot of young players. And then we get to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Tomorrow, NHL free agency opens. And there are rumors out there, Toronto has given up on Mitch Marner. Never won bleep with him, scored his 221 career goals, etc. We're not going to pay him $14 million. Toronto is talking about a sign and trade with Las Vegas that would give them the right to sign Marner and would bring 1 or 2 younger players to Toronto in a trade rather than have Marner hit the free agent window at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So if you're a hockey fan, keep an eye, see if this deal happens this evening or overnight or first thing before the free agent window opens there. Las Vegas is obviously trying to make a transaction there with Las Vegas. Speaking of the draft, I want to throw this out to you, John. I don't know if you had the chance to see the NHL draft on Friday, the first round. I'm always kind of snazzy. When the Columbus Blue Jackets pick came up in the middle of the first round and they had some special people come out and actually make the honorary pick, Gary Bettman, the commissioner, turned to look at the curtain and said, and now here to announce the Columbus Blue Jackets pick is the widow of Johnny Hockey, Johnny Gaudreau, who of course died tragically in that hit and run drunk driving incident that killed he and his brother. His wife, widowed with 3 young kids, she came out and made the pick, and they would not let her, Meredith Gaudreau, make the pick. Standing ovation went on for 3 full minutes. It was a tearjerker, and it moved the earth. It was so neat what the NHL did on behalf of Johnny Gaudreau. Free agency opens tomorrow. Marner's name is out there. Brock Besser, the former 40-goal scorer, the Vancouver Canucks, he is out there. There's just a wide variety of guys. We're still waiting to see what transpires down in Florida. Brad Marchand is still unsigned, although the Florida Panthers did sign their Stanley Cup star, Sam Bennett, to an 8-year, $64+ million contract extension. We're waiting to see what happens with Marchand. So, tell you what, 24 hours from today, there's going to be a lot of signings in the National Hockey League. So, John, that's what's going on in pro hockey. Step up there, make a slap shot, see if we can put it on goal.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in hockey, but I'm just thinking about where you're located, because you're like in the very northern part of New York, and I would think you're almost surrounded there by 7 or 8 NHL franchises. I mean, what's the hometown for people in your area? Who do they root for there?
Awful lot of unbearable Buffalo Sabres fans here in and around all these cottages. A lot of Buffalo people that spend some of the summer here on the lakes. But there are Toronto fans, there are Ottawa fans, I've seen some of the enemy wearing Montreal Canadiens jerseys. I mean, go to the Syracuse airport, it's a hell of a lot of people wearing hockey jerseys in the middle of the summer. So yeah, this is big time hockey. But they're big time Yankee fans here. And there are some people really pissed off about the New York Mets right now. And obviously there's some NBA fans, but hockey is really huge up here in upstate New York. And of course, Canada is 50 miles to the north.
Yeah, so you could drive right now, like to Montreal or Toronto. How far away is that?
Montreal is probably good 50. Toronto is west of here, way west of here, west of Buffalo. That's a bit of a road trip.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is near Buffalo.
And by the way, when you get on the 1,000 Island Bridge to go to Canada from up here where I am, make sure you bring your passport, because the RCMP will turn your car around and will not let you into the country if you don't have your passport. We learned that.
Are they building a wall up there?
No, not building a wall, but the rules are the rules according to them.
There you go.
So that's all things NHL hockey. John, we move on because we got other topics on the table.
We do have other topics on the table. And where are we bouncing to next? Oh, yeah, NFL story with the Browns and the Steelers.
Let's start with Cleveland. I don't know how they're going to get this done, but the picture on the right is Jim Haslam, controversial owner, Cleveland Browns, not very well liked. He's embroiled in this war of words with Cleveland. He wants to move the Browns out of that stadium on the lakefront. The city in Cuyahoga County said they'd be willing to put up about $400 million for renovations in a 20-year-old stadium. Haslam wants to build a dome stadium 15 miles outside of downtown Cleveland in a suburban industrial district called Brook Park. The governor has committed $600 million to help him. He's going to pay $1.2 billion of it himself, the Haslam Corporation, but they're still $600 billion short. So it's going to be very interesting to see where he comes up with the rest of the money. Cleveland is just at war with this guy, on top of the fact that the Browns franchise has just been a disaster in terms of roster, player personnel, Deshaun Watson contract, injuries, et cetera, et cetera. So anyhow, they released on Friday, they released a photogenic look at what the new stadium would look like. It's not a rectangular stadium, kind of an oval, and it's got cantilevered roof. Looks like a soccer stadium. So one of the cartoon editors of the Cleveland Plain Dealer, Cleveland.com, redesigned it. He redesigned the picture, and it shows the stadium with the white fabric roof at the top of the stadium and a bowl at the top, a toilet bowl. And he said, hey, got a corporate name. We'll call it the Tidy Bowl Stadium, representing the Cleveland Browns. They are so angry at Haslam for wanting to take the franchise out of downtown Cleveland, move it to Industrial Park, et cetera. So this thing is far from settled. What is settled is what's happening with the other team in the division, the Pittsburgh Steelers. John, huge trade today. And this has been rumored, bits and pieces and fragments going back and forth. The Steelers made a big trade with the Miami Dolphins. Pittsburgh got Jalen Ramsey, the Pro Bowl cornerback, as part of a transaction for Minkah Fitzpatrick, their Pro Bowl safety. They also got Jonnu Smith, the tight end, pass-catching tight end for Miami, and they got 2 draft picks. So it wound up being a 4-for-2 trade. Fitzpatrick goes to Miami with a pick. Ramsey can still play. He comes. Jonnu Smith, who can still play, and 2 draft choices go to Pittsburgh. Here's the unique thing. Pittsburgh's doing this. This goes against the grain of everything Steeler football has been. Tight-fisted money, very conservative in the Rooney family. Omar Khan, in his second year as general manager, has thrown caution to the wind. I mean, John, if you go back and look at what Pittsburgh has done in the offseason, that is Aaron Rodgers. That is Jalen Ramsey. That is Jonnu Smith. That is DK Metcalf, the wide receiver from Seattle. That's Darius Slay, who came from Philadelphia and Detroit. And that's Juan Thornhill from Kansas City. They've added all these guys, and that's not their history of the way they've done business, getting players from the outside. So it's really fascinating. Pittsburgh has changed all of its culture and obviously trying to win. Some people of the opinion that Pittsburgh is not going to have a winning season. Others of the opinion they're rolling all this on short-term contracts, and I think Pittsburgh is going to be the real deal in the AFC North. Coming after you, Kansas City. Coming after you, Baltimore. And we got Aaron Rodgers, and now we got all these defensive players coming on board. It's kind of really fascinating. So, John, you can solve the problem in the 216 area code Cleveland. Give me a response to what's happening in area code 412 Western Pennsylvania.
You and your area codes. I'm surprised you're not saying like, Allegheny 2, like with the phone numbers the way they were set up in the 50s. So, okay. So I want to talk about the Browns, but I want to talk about something different with the Browns. This whole quarterback thing. Okay. And I'm hearing that Pickett is the number one. Flacco is the emergency quarterback. The Sanders and who's the other kid? The lefty, Dylan Gabriel is the other quarterback. But I go through my feed and I see a lot of like clickbait posts talking about how Shador is out. There's no future for Shador. Dylan Gabriel has taken over the number 3 slot. I mean, so break it down for me. What can we expect for the quarterbacks in Cleveland?
This whole thing starts July 17th. Everybody's got an angle. Everybody's got an opinion. Doesn't mean anything. It's going to be proven on the field. My gut feel is right now they're going to give Kenny Pickett every opportunity to take the job. Flacco's the insurance policy. I think there'll be a third quarterback, one of the young guys. Gabriel's gotten a lot more snaps than Shador Sanders has. But a week ago Friday, they're the ones that made the pronouncement we could carry 4 quarterbacks on the active roster. I've never, ever heard that before. But their theory is we think there's upside to Shador. We don't want to have to run the risk of putting him on waivers. Somebody might claim him. If we put him on waivers, somebody takes him, we lose him. This is the only way to get him on the developmental squad. He's got to go through waivers first. So I'm not sure what's fact or fiction, but tell you, the 3 preseason games they're going to play, this can bear watching to see what Gabriel does against live fire and where Shedeur is on the learning curve. So, John, it's not even July 1st yet. Don't worry about opening day. Let's just progress to July 17th, the start of camp, and we'll continue to keep you updated here. So I don't want you walking around uninformed, but right now, any consternation, much ado about nothing.
Okay, there we go. All right, you got me locked in on the correct time frame here. And then the Steelers, you're right, it is different. It's like they're kind of putting all their chips all in. They got 1 year with Aaron Rodgers, and they're just going to go for it.
And what did you think about the Browns and the picture of the toilet bowl? I saw it. I couldn't believe it.
We've talked about this Haslam guy quite a bit, in the past, and he has a lot of hate in Cleveland, and it's not just this stadium thing. I mean, but didn't this guy, he helped bring back the Browns to Cleveland? I mean, he should be beloved, no?
Well, he didn't bring them back. He bought them.
Okay.
The Lerner family was the one that got the expansion team in '99 and then obviously gave it up. And Haslam has come on board, but they've made so many mistakes along the way. Okay, that's all things football. You got an opinion about the toilet bowl, tidy bowl, the new stadium name. You got an opinion about all things Pittsburgh Steeler. Feel free to jump on board. John, go ahead. Just close your eyes and grab one of the other topics off the board.
Well, yeah, we got to go to the high-speed sports wire for sure. A lot of good soccer news today. I was watching a lot of the soccer matches over the weekend.
Yeah, let's just run through this as quickly as we can because we do want to get to the fans forum chat box. Let's talk about Team USA. They're still unbeaten in the Gold Cup. We went through weeks and weeks of this mounting criticism of Coach Mauricio Pochettino about what he did, construction of the roster, giving all the veteran players the summer off to try to get totally healthy. And they're unbeaten. They're 4-0. They posted in the knockout win. They posted a victory over Costa Rica. They won on a shootout, 4-3 on penalty shots. An unknown from Germany, his name is Damian Downs. He's the son of an Air Force pilot, grew up in Germany, wanted to play football, real football, not football, soccer. He scored the game-winning goal. And the goalkeeper, Matt Freese, who's third on the depth chart, made 3 saves in the penalty kick shootout to get Team USA another victory. They move now into the semifinals. They're going to play Guatemala. Guatemala shocked Canada in their knockout game. So they're going to play this next round, USA versus Guatemala. Nobody's paying any attention to Mexico. Holy cow, they should. Mexico, they're 4-0. They picked up another win, beat Saudi Arabia. The Mexican side, for Javier Aguirre, the coach, is playing really well together. They're going to play Honduras in the knockout round in the other semifinal. So that's a fascinating story. Let's talk about SDFC. On the road, without some of their key players, injuries, guys playing in the Club World Cup, no problem. How about SDFC? They go to Vancouver and win. Then they go to Dallas and win. CJ Dos Santos with the 3 big saves. SDFC is 12-3-5. An expansion team is 12-3-5. Send their mail to the post office in care of first place MLS. I mean, this is just a fascinating story. Meanwhile, the Club World Cup, just the criticism just continues to blow up on a week-by-week basis. Jurgen Klopp, legendary coach, English Premier League, explodes at FIFA, saying this is the worst idea soccer leadership has ever had. He says it's pointless. I don't care how much money you're taking in. What you're doing to these players, putting them at risk. And Jurgen Klopp has indicated, he's the legendary coach from Liverpool. He says there will be catastrophic injuries next season in all these global leagues because you have given these players absolutely no time off. And then he's chastised FIFA saying, you don't care about the star players in this global sport. Ooh, that really stung. NASCAR. You ever see a pileup accident in the fog on a freeway? Did you see the Atlanta 400 at all this week? No. NASCAR, Atlanta 400. In the second stage of the Atlanta 400, 2 cars got sideways. 20 seconds later, 17 cars were damaged. It was a chain reaction like you wouldn't believe, because there's no place on the track for these guys to go. Two guys up front got sideways, collided, and next thing you know, everybody behind them is sideways, colliding, hitting the wall, into the infield, hitting other cars. 7 of the top leaders got wiped out in one crash in the Atlanta 400. And Formula One, they ran the Austrian Grand Prix. It was really interesting. Team McLaren made a public statement last Friday. Boys, go race each other. In essence, boys, have at it. They were making reference to their two drivers, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. They had been involved in a crash the week prior. So they're in the Austrian Grand Prix, and Landon Norris kind of shoves aside his teammate to move him over so he could pass him. And Landon Norris went on to win, despite that he might have put Piastri at risk of crashing into one of the barriers. End result, Lando Norris won, Piastri finished second. By the way, Max Verstappen, first lap, get out of my way. The rookie, Kimi Antonelli's not getting out of his way, clipped them. Verstappen and Antonelli both crashed, both wiped themselves out on the third turn of the first lap of the Austrian Grand Prix. Everything with Team Red Bull is a drama. Everything is a soap opera. One day Verstappen loves it. The next day he hates everybody. John, just absolutely fascinating. So go ahead, talk soccer if you want. Go ahead, talk about the good old boys and all the anger in F1.
Okay, well, I watched a lot of soccer over the weekend, and the USA match against Costa Rica was a fun watch. And, you know, they came back and won that game. And like you said, in penalty kicks, but that goalkeeper Freeze was something. I mean, he was out there, kind of had some swagger after he blocked the third one. I mean, it was a lot of fun to watch. And it was interesting that Berhalter's son was on that team, and he actually missed one of the penalty kicks. But it was, and then you see Berhalter in the stands with the family watching along. I'm sure it was probably a little bit awkward. And real quick, the San Diego FC story has got to be one of the best sports stories in California, in the Western United States. I mean, they had another great comeback game. I watched that. That was terrific. And then the interesting thing about Club World Cup, I was watching Paris Saint-Germain against, I think it was Inter Miami, you know, because Messi was on that team. And, you know, when Messi had the ball, you could tell he was world class, the way he was moving it. But for the most part, this really gave you a good vision of why MLS is like a second or third tier down, because the ball control was so tightly managed by the Paris Saint-Germain players. And it seemed that the ball was always on one half of the field the whole time. So we got a pretty good view of the differences between the different soccer leagues.
Tell you what, everybody was shocked. It was lopsided. It was 4-0 early. A lot of people feared it was going to end up being 8-0, which would have been a terrible emotional blow for all things MLS, to have their best player, their best team get destroyed by Paris Saint-Germain, who, of course, won the Champions League there in Europe. Okay, those are topics on the table. I forewarned you that we do sports talk the way it should be done, the way we always did it, a lot of different topics, which we now move over, give you the chance to take over this podcast, because it is indeed time for Fans Forum. Yeah, I think we got a few people here that got a few opinions. John, go ahead, pick and choose.
Okay, let's go to our friend David. Again, you give us some money, you go to the top of the list. And David said, hey, real football is soccer. Midfields run almost 9 miles per match. American football is averaging 14 minutes of actual playing time, not sitting around during commercials and timeouts, lazy and boring.
I'll tell you, do you remember the name Michael Bradley? He was a midfielder for Team USA maybe a decade ago. Had a long career. His father was Bob Bradley, who at one time was our U.S. national teams coach.
I do.
They played a World Cup game, maybe 2 or 3 World Cups back. Michael Bradley was on the pitch for the whole time. They configured that he ran 23 miles in this game that went on and on and on. He ran 23 miles in one soccer game. But no, the wear and tear factor, because there's hardly any substitutions, etc. Even though teams do make changes, I think you're allowed a total of, I think it's 5 now. You can make 5 substitutions. Most all of them come after halftime. So these guys are a different breed of cat, different breed of athlete, no doubt about it.
Yeah, but I think we were watching like the B team, right? Or the C team, because, the big stars weren't in that match against Costa Rica. And then, by the way, after the game, I saw the keeper for Costa Rica having a long talk with, Pochettino after the game. They had their arms around each other. And I'm like, well, who the hell is this Navas guy? He's like apparently one of the best keepers in the world right now. And I think he plays in club ball down in Argentina.
Interesting. Well, everybody knows everybody who's got relationships with everybody. It is kind of novel. Okay, move on. Next one.
Okay, let's go here to Eddie. And Eddie says, hey, gentlemen, do we really think Michael King is going to come back this season? He's a free agent this coming year. Why risk getting hurt for a team that hasn't signed you long-term? Thoughts?
Well, the Padres had conversations long-term. The agent kind of set that aside and said, well, he's going to play out, trust himself, and then he got hurt. We don't know. He's had 2 throwing sessions, but that's just long tours in the outfield. That's not off a mound. That's not max. That's not full velocity, etc. But he said the last second toss session that he had full range of motion, and he felt okay. Now, he didn't say the scapula felt perfect. He said there was still something going on. I just think this is a long haul. We might not see him till September, and with the hope that there's no setback. I think the one that's closer is going to be Yu Darvish. I think he's pretty close to a decision coming. Do we send him to El Paso on rehab, or do we do what the Dodgers did with Ohtani? And I think this bears fruit. Let's just activate him, let him pitch. He'll be the first guy on a bullpen day. He'll pitch 1 inning, see how he reacts. The next start, a week from then, he'll pitch 2 innings, and they'll try to ramp him up that way and get him his live action at the major league level. But his last outing went 51 pitches in a sim game, clocked 94 miles an hour, and had no problems, after effects, with the elbow. So I think they're going to do with Darvish what the Dodgers have now done in 3 different starts with Ohtani. Progression slow, but just ramp it up inning by inning, start by start, as long as there's no setbacks. I just don't think we're going to see Michael King for a chunk of time yet. Still a lot of hurdles that have to be made.
Well, I was hearing that he's feeling a lot better, like the best he's felt since he's been on the injured list. So maybe he is coming back. But, the idea of having them as openers, I just like that innovative idea in baseball. Because sometimes, they send him down to like Lake Elsinore for 2 or 3 starts. You don't see him. Probably could offer a lot more value to the team up at the big league level. And by the way, I saw a post on Instagram that I guess Michael King is his wife is pregnant. So good for them.
Yeah. The difference is, Michael King playing catch in your driveway in your castle, John, that's different than standing on a major league mound and letting it rip. We are so far away. By the way, Matt Waldron brought up, because you have a limit. I think it's 29 days, 10 games on rehab, and he reached his limit in El Paso, and he is up, and he's starting for the Padres in Philadelphia as they begin this series after the messy situation in Cincinnati. So we'll see if Waldron is all the way back, and we'll see if the knuckleball still moves like the knuckleball did for a chunk of time. I went back and looked. He had a 14 start stretch, John. His ERA was 2.47. You and I last year talked about how he saved the Padres first half of the season, but his ERA after that was in the 5s. So it all kind of caught up to him. So we'll see which Matt Waldron shows up starting with this Monday game in Philadelphia. Okay, next one.
Okay, let's go here to Manga Dolo. He says, hey, when I hear topics on the table, I actually shed a tear. Reminds me of the 52 westbound to Genesee. Love it.
Oh, plain and simple. The people that tell me they listen to us on 690 and all the unique things that we did and the phraseology from Baja to the Canadian Rockies, that's cool to be remembered that way. And now that we've ventured into the podcast world, and please understand this is somebody who had to teach himself how to turn a computer on, use a laptop. This guy still has a Royal Manual typewriter in his garage. So I am new school. John, despite all your talents, I've learned how to do this, which is kind of amazing to even me.
Yeah, you're coming along here into the 21st century. I think speaking for myself, it's a thrill to do this podcast with you, but your voice and your vernacular and your vocabulary, your gloss, as Jim Rome would say, that does bring back memories, good times back in the 90s when you were on the air on 690 and then, and even in 1090 after the turn of the century.
Yeah, we had a good run. We worked awful hard at it. I'll tell you what, this podcast just doesn't happen with a snap of the fingers or punching on the on button on the computer. There's a lot of research that we do to put these topics on the table, and now to add all the graphics and stuff that we build. And John gets a lot of credit because John builds these graphics too. So yeah, we got something that's kind of novel, kind of different. And you're right, John, we are bleeping brilliant. Okay, move on.
Okay, we got some breaking news here. John's going to share with us. He goes, newsflash, Mitch Marner to Vegas.
Well, that story had been out there for about 48 hours. And Toronto, instead of allowing him to walk out the door as an unsigned free agent, is moving him. One name that was mentioned out there was Nick Roy, a goal-scoring winger. There was another, Nick Hague, a defenseman. At one point, Toronto asked for both in the deal, but Vegas turned around and traded Hague. I think he might have gone to the Carolina Hurricanes in the early morning hours today. But Toronto gets something out of it. The other aspect of this transaction, is that Toronto just re-signed John Tavares, who scored 38 goals, the veteran forward. And then they also re-signed the left winger, Matthew Neese. They got those two guys signed for less than they would have had to pay Marner to keep Marner. So what they've done is they got Marner's salary, and they spent a combined $12 million to re-sign the center iceman, John Tavares, who took a 50% pay cut to stay in Toronto. So Marner to Vegas gives Vegas the right to sign him, and they're going to sign him to a contract extension. Free agent window opens at 9 a.m. He never gets to that open window tomorrow morning. So the rumor that had been out there that there was Vegas-Toronto talks, it's gone through. And we've hardly ever seen sign-and trades in the National Hockey League, but it's starting to happen now.
Okay, let's keep moving here. Let's go here to Sarver Group. Lee, show me your lightning bolt. Do the Chargers bring back Keenan Allen?
No, at this point, because they drafted two wide receivers that they really like. They need to get younger with more speed, and that's the reality of what the Chargers are going to do. You know, they've added two tight ends. They've added two wide receivers. Obviously, they brought Mike Williams back. It was really intriguing last week. I quoted one of the Charger assistant coaches about that former number one draft pick wide receiver, Quentin Johnston. The Quentin Johnston is competing against Quentin Johnston to stay on this roster because suddenly they're looking at other things because Johnston has just continued to be so very inconsistent, running routes, catching balls, dropping balls, etc., disappearing the most important times of the year. But no, they're not Keenan Allen. Allen's name has been mentioned as possibly going to Pittsburgh. But again, Keenan has to cross the threshold, go through the intersection. He's not a $15 million wide receiver, $15 million a year wide receiver anymore. I think he's having a tough time. I think he's asking for big money, and they're not going to give a route runner in his 30s big money. So I think when he decides the price tag on me is going to come down, he'll probably find a job. But he and Amari Cooper are still both unsigned out there in the NFL. And again, camps open July 15th, July 17th. So they'll wind up with contracts when the price tag comes down.
Okay, let's keep on moving here. Lots of Laker talk, and I'm going to get three people in at once on this. So we'll start here with Richard, and he says, King James is nothing but a cancer. He's just a name now. And then who's this? This is Bull Guevara says, I'm so ready to end the LeBron era in L.A., and then Roy kind of shapes it up. He says, Cleveland can't trade for LeBron without stripping down the team. Financially, taking on LeBron's salary does not work. Plus, who wants to risk their future on a 41-year-old who is prone to injury?
Well, you know, the big issue is here, he's got a $56.2 million deal. You know, the names that have been mentioned, I was told was the big center, was it Jonathan Allen, and then the guard Darius Garland. That might match dollar figures, but you're getting rid of younger players for a 40-year-old. I don't think that makes very much business sense. Yeah, there might be an emotional attachment. The agent is trying to reposition LeBron for another homecoming, and let's finish this off. Now, if I'm the Lakers, you want LeBron? You give me Garland, give me Mobley. Cleveland's not going to do that because then Cleveland's stripping away two of its better younger players. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. I'll spin back to my opening comment. If LeBron's agent is so interested in building a championship team, he doesn't need $56 million on the final year of his contract. Make it $40 million and give the Lakers more cap space to go get more people. And does that make sense to anybody aside from me? Go ahead, John.
Let's just say that the Lakers, let's pretend there's no salary cap. They could go sign a free agent. Money is no object. Who in the free agent class would be the rim protector that they need?
Nobody's going to give up rim protectors. Nobody's going to give up aircraft carriers. You might get a guy coming off an injury. You might get a guy that's strictly a defensive player like Clint Capella in Atlanta, who's got zero offensive skills. Do you settle on an old dog like Brook Lopez? But they've walked down that road with him one time before, so I don't think you do that. I do like Walker Kessler. Now, he's young. He's younger. And the minute the trade took place where they got Yusuf Nurkic over the weekend, I thought that's got to be the front end of something else. Maybe Kessler is going to come to the Lakers. I would take Kessler because that's 11 points, 12 rebounds a game, and he does defend. He just doesn't run the floor. He's a plotter. He's a much slower guy. So I'll be interested to see if he winds up being the guy. But John, nobody's trading you a star. And by the way, you can't create a world tomorrow at 12 noon in which there's no salary cap, because there is a salary cap, and there's all kinds of bloody restrictions if you're over the salary cap, luxury tax and all that. So you can't play the game. What if? Because there is no what if in the NBA. These are the rules and tax aprons and the penalties, etc. But
the Lakers had one of the best rim protectors in the league, and they traded him. Who in your opinion are the best rim protectors? I mean, it's got to be Anthony Davis, right?
Yeah. Well, we're talking the guys that are available are second tier guys. No, yeah. Second tier sounds insulting. I won't say second tier as it relates to Kessler, because I do think he's a good younger player. But the other guys are just guys. So we'll see where this goes. They haven't done anything yet in terms of acquisitions, and obviously the window is opening for free agency and trades, so we'll see what else transpires. All right, next
Bronny's not coming back. I mean, I can't see any scenario. Can you?
Well, if LeBron leaves, Bronny's leaving too.
Yeah, it's a package deal, right? Yeah. Okay, let's keep going here. Let's go to Showtime LA. He says, hey, Dodgers getting Snell and Glasnow back right around the All-Star break is going to be huge for the stretch run.
Well, Dodgers have the arrow pointing up right now. And Glasnow did go through his first rehab start in Oklahoma City. I think he had two innings, 1 run allowed, and I think maybe 3 or 4 strikeouts. Plunked a guy too. But to me, Glasnow is a start-by-start evaluation, because they have tried to change his mechanics. But every time structurally they've done something different, something else pops up that doesn't make him feel right, whether it's the shoulder, whether it was the back. I mean, he's so big and he's so rangy, and he gets out of sync. And if you're trying to change his mechanics, he's now shown that there's other things that kind of break on him. So they have to be very cautious with that. I don't buy anything on Snell until I actually see Snell on the mound throwing bullpens, batting practices, and then actually doing simulated games. And he's still not there. He's only had 1 or 2 very light throwing sessions. But Dodgers, they got Ohtani's now 3 starts in, and this blueprint that they had has worked pretty doggone well. And like I said early on in the podcast, who could have thought Kershaw would be 4-0 at this point with a 3.03 ERA? Dustin May is not completely back. There's some mechanical flaws. They're still working. Had the good start, but he's had some bumpy runs since that point in time. There is no Sasaki coming back. And now that they've kind of pushed Yamamoto back to 6 days rest, you see he's had 2 good starts in a row because he kind of looked fatigued. So Dodgers are pretty deep. And by the way, when they have bad pitching outings, no problem. They'll just hit home runs. Think about this, John. Out of every 5 days, the Dodgers in this rotation, 2 of them have been bullpen days. I mean, Dodgers bullpen has really carried the water the first half of the season for them. And they've really stressed them by having to go bullpen days. 2 out of every 6 games they've had to use a bullpen day, and they're in first place. Won 15 of the last 20.
Dodgers. They got it all. So I want to ask you this, Lee, as a you were grew up on Long Island when the Dodgers were still in New York. You've seen this team over the decades as a fan, as a sports journalist. What is the favorite bunch of guys? What era of Dodger baseball is your favorite?
Well, I was not a Dodger fan growing up. I did not like the Brooklyn Dodgers, did not like the New York Giants. I detested the New York Yankees because they always won. That's how I became a Cleveland Indians fan. Chief Wahoo and all that, and the Indians were pretty good as I was a kid growing up. But at the end of the day, there's a historical relevance to Dodger baseball, and I'm a big traditionalist, big lover of history. You know, the Branch Rickey era and Jackie Robinson and the really good Dodgers that became the 50s. Now, they kind of broke our heart when they left Ebbets Field and they moved to Los Angeles. But the O'Malley family resolutely were one of the classiest families to own baseball, when there were a lot of families that owned baseball in that era. And then they decided to step aside when it became too big a business for their family to finance it. But I think history of what they accomplished in the Branch Rickey era, what the O'Malley family, Walter, then to Peter, stood for, it just kind of sold me on how cool an organization, how historically great an organization was. Even though I got tired of all the semantics of Tommy Lasorda and all the other junk.
Yeah, I mean, speaking for me as a fan of the game, it was I knew about the history, obviously, with Jackie Robinson, Branch Rickey, but it was that 1970s infield, you know, with Garvey and Lopes and Russell and Say. And then that you kind of transition from that into Fernando Mania. And that was just a golden run for the Dodgers during that time frame.
I've seen a few more fastballs in my life than you have in yours. So I go a little bit farther back. But the modern day Dodgers, and they got to Los Angeles. That's a pretty good organization, and they had a tremendously long, successful run. Whether you liked all the junk that was coming out of the mouth of Lasorda, that was a pretty good and well-run franchise.
Yeah, okay, yelling at Kurt Bavacqua. Some good times right there. Okay, let's go here to Casey. He says, hey, also sorry to hear about Dave Parker passing, as he was fun to watch growing up. Met him at Angels Stadium in 1988 before an Angels versus A's game, and he was very cool with the fans. He will be missed. Rip Cobra.
Yeah, R.I.P. Cobra. And the stories that are being told, I got access to some of the stuff that was written in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette today. I mean, it was very emotional and very moving. But, John, just think about the challenge. He was the next one. After the tragic death of the great one, Roberto Clemente, in the plane crash, a young Dave Parker, whether he was ready or not, he became the next one. And so much was expected of him, but he was so tough and such a leader. And what a phenomenally gifted athlete. And then they built that thing as Parker grew into stardom. You know, here came Willie Stargell and Pops. And then here came Al Oliver. And here came, for a short period of time, power hitter Richie Zisk, Richie Hebner, pitching, Manny Sanguillen. And I mean, there was a summer samba to the way they played baseball in Pittsburgh. Then we are family group. And of course, Pittsburgh had another round of great baseball, aka the Jim Leyland, Barry Bonds era. But that group, we are family, that was real special.
Yeah, I'm just thinking more about the Pirates. I just remember Bill Madlock was there, won some batting titles. And who was the pitcher that threw a no-hitter on LSD against the Padres? Who was that guy?
Oh, you asked me too quick. Doc Ellis.
Doc Ellis, yeah. So, and then I remember the other thing was interesting with, was it Sanguillen? Wasn't he traded to the A's for Dick Tanner or something like that for a manager?
Yeah,
Chuck Tanner, pardon me. Yeah, so and then Chuck Tanner played for the Pirates, didn't he, back in the day? And then he was the manager there as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of good eras there. You know, and then you got the Mazeroski era. I mean, it's a shame that Pirates baseball has just turned into, you know, it's just Paul Skeens and a bunch of nothing right now.
Beautiful ballpark, and they're wasting Skeens' career because ownership has just been so poor in terms of their personnel decisions. I mean, I think we all love Petco Park, and I love the history of Dodger Stadium, Chavez Ravine. I'll tell you, PNC, the sight lines at that park in Pittsburgh, I've been there. It is phenomenal. You look at the center field from home plate to center field and goes out to the Pittsburgh skyline and all the bridges down the rivers. Oh, it is so cool. Unfortunately, the product hasn't been very good. Okay, John, a couple more.
Okay, let's go here to Richard. I don't think we got Richard in already. He says, fans forum, LA is a well-run organization. They invest wisely both on and off the field. That's why they've had a postseason. They've had the postseason since 2013. Too bad San Diego doesn't play with urgency like they do versus the Dodgers.
there's something about the persona of the Dodger lineup that seems to be missing in San Diego. And I can't quite put my finger on it, but the Dodger batting order scares the holy hell out of you. And outside of the Padre top of the batting order, because that top of the batting order, when they're all hitting on all the cylinders, that's pretty dangerous. The bottom half is not. But now, when you have these extended 2-month slumps for Tatis and these 2 bad periods that Machado's had, they don't have enough to compete. And the pitching obviously is got some thinness to it because of the loss of 3 pitchers. I mean, no Darvish, no King, and we knew there'd be no Musgrove. How do you stay in a pennant race not having enough arms, and complicated by the fact that they don't have enough in the farm system to use as trade chips to try to fix it? So, I told you, I hate to invoke the green button here. It says, I told you so. But I told you so. 14-3 because you weren't playing anybody. Now you start playing big boys, and they're 31-35 since that point in time. They're really struggling. Season's not over, no. But they've gone, since the beanball incidents against the Dodgers, John, they've gone from a half game out to 7 back. And now they're in Philadelphia to meet an angry Philadelphia Phillies team.
It's just mind-boggling. And the Dodgers are just, they got everything. They're like the Midas touch, the team that can do no wrong. As far as the Padres are going, you can't blame the pitching for the Padres. Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. You said there was something about the Padre lineup that you couldn't put your finger on it that is lacking. And obviously the bottom half of the lineup has been struggling. But there's a common line from Dodger fan that Manny Machado is a cancer. There's no way Manny Machado is ever going to win a championship. I mean, do you buy that, or is that just, Dodger fan being all pissy?
I think it's Dodger fan piling on. Maybe they have a right to pile on. The guy's a gamer. The guy's a baller. The guy plays all the time, and the guy's been pretty productive. Does he antagonize people? Yeah, he probably does. Does he not run out some ground balls? Yeah, he probably does. Does he have cold spells? Well, he's got 2 of them so far, but the guy's never out of the lineup. So I am not a Manny hater. Manny came here with a bit of a sullied reputation based on the exit from Baltimore, and then obviously the junk that happened right with the Dodgers. And Dodger fans got to boo somebody. If it's not going to be a Giant, then I guess it'll be a Padres. So be it. But the Padres lineup they got holes in it, and there's no way to fix those holes at this point in time. I'll tell you, here's the intriguing thing. If they can't stay in this pennant race, John, if this becomes a non-playoff season, then I ask the question, have you gone as far as A.J. Preller can get them? Because there's a lid, there's a cap that they're not going over on the payroll, and there's nothing to trade in the farm system, at least in the AA, AAA level, that's going to net them something of significance early on. There might be a rental there that they might be able to get. But so if this doesn't work out, on top of the other failures more recently when this was supposed to be their World Series window, that's another topic for another day. We'll get into that a little bit farther into the summer. Okay, John, instead of piling on with them, let's go ahead and field a few more.
Okay, here's, again, more Dodger talk, talking about the great organization. This is from Jay Farrell, and he says, Robleski has been a hero for the Dodgers. Kasperius, his sidekick.
Robleski's had 2 really impressive starts. For a guy that was supposed to be a bulk guy on a throwaway bullpen day game, he's had 2 really good starts. Now, Kasperius, he had the one really good start with the Padres, but boy, the other night, he and the reliever that followed him gave up 9 runs after Ohtani left the ball game with a lead. Not good. So young guys have stretches which they pitch well, then they have stretches that they don't pitch well. But the Dodgers are just so deep in pitching right now. And the days that they don't get the pitching, you still got to face Ohtani and the boys with the bats in their hand, and that makes it really hard. I mean, you may not like the Dodgers, but they haven't collapsed. I mean, what's that record I quoted you? 52-33 or something like that? Just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and the Dodgers are going to make a deal at the trade deadline to get even better. I mean, so it's just Dodgers. So we're just going to let it play out. I think I have a bet with my buddy over at the Postal Annex here in Poway. His name's Dennis, big Dodger fan. And we bet every year on head-to-head matchups. So there's 13 games. And I think the Padres have won 2 and the Dodgers have won 5, if I recall, in the head-to-head. So I think I'm going to lose this bet again this year.
All right, John, let's move to social media because I know there's a whole bunch of people stacked up that have sent us reactions to some of the talked about. Go ahead.
There's a lot here. Okay. Okay, let's go here. More Dodger Padre talk. This is from Pete. He goes, hey, I watched the way Manny reacted when Tatis was hit the other night. Only player to leave the dugout and start drama versus the way Shohei behaved when he was hit with 100 mile per hour to his head. One reacted with class and one was a punk.
Well, Manny is the one that yapped and yapped and yapped. And, Manny said, light the candle, you better hope, as if he was threatening something was going to happen the next time they played him August 15th. But we'll see if that cools down, if that goes away. Also, who knows who's going to be in the standings post-trading deadline. We had to August 15th. The Dodgers are going to be 30 games ahead of everybody, and the Padres are going to be out of the playoff race. So that'll probably fall under the umbrella of whether there's real tension there or not as to where they are in the pennant race and how important those games are. But again, that's Dodger fan being bitter at Padre fan for the junk that Manny said when he was in Los Angeles, that I don't have to be Johnny Hustle. And there's contingents here that still are not all Manny Machado fans, and he said, read the back of my baseball card. Well, I've read the back of the baseball card, and you're the captain of a couple teams that absolutely collapsed. And by the way, you were part of the 24 scoreless innings at the end in the series against the Dodgers. But in the big picture, Manny's having a great career. Manny's having a tremendous year. I think it's a little premature for the Union Tribune baseball guys to keep sales pitching Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame. He's got 5 more years of his career probably being at the top of his game. He has put up really good numbers. So he's, like I say, that's the phrase, baller. He just shows up and plays, and he's getting paid a lot of money, and do it. So be it.
Manny's the villain, I think, in every town that they go visit, especially Milwaukee and LA.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Manny. I like having him on our team. I think he's a good dude. I think he's largely misunderstood. He's had, some blemishes, but overall, I would take Manny over any third baseman out there.
Okay, we move on. Next one, social media.
Social media. Okay, this is an interesting one, I thought. And this is from Daniel. He goes, I don't know anyone watching it here. Talking about Club World Cup soccer. I don't know anyone watching it out here in Ireland. The game is being ruined by greed. Hacksaw, you're worldwide.
Yeah, globally. Buy me something at the pub there, would you? John and I have actually been to Ireland. I visited and I tipped a few cold ones in the Guinness Brewery in Dublin, and we did this podcast from Ireland last summer when John was on a holiday. And I was scared that this thing was going to blow up and we would not have the connectivity. And most people in Ireland kind of came through for us. In terms of the Club World Cup, the response has been negative. One of the coaches just had a terrible outburst yesterday. There have been 7 of the Club World Cup games have been suspended because of really bad lightning storms in South Florida, in the Deep South, etc. And, just the general consensus is FIFA did this against the recommendation of people. There's no need for a 32-team Club World Cup when you got all the other tournaments these teams play, plus their league schedules. And there's no downtime for the players. And this was all about the greed of FIFA and all the TV revenue they could extract from us. And half the stadiums are empty, not full. There obviously there have been some phenomenal games with the fan support for Boca Juniors out of South America, and obviously Paris Saint-Germain from France. But there's been a lot of empty stadiums too, and the weather has complicated the whole thing. But just the risk involved with the players, and then what Jurgen Klopp just had to say, the former Liverpool coach, yesterday or last night, he just absolutely condemned FIFA. So there's a lot of people want this thing to go away.
Now, why did FIFA schedule Club World Cup at the same time that we've got all these, national teams playing, like in the CONCACAF Gold Cup here in America?
Just trying to jam stuff into a schedule that's already really full. They came with the opinion, we can get big TV money here. We'll make more money for soccer, which in essence means more money globally for soccer federations. But the end result is, look what you're doing to these players, what you're putting these players through. It's the reaction has really been negative. The players have not said it, but the players are trying to promote the game globally. But coaches and management people have just totally condemned it. This was all a money grab at the risk of the health of these players.
It's all a money grab. So you always go for that line. Okay, let's talk some Oilers here with Truth Token. The city of Edmonton wants Stuart Skinner's head removed.
Well, I'm not going to use that language. He's a good young goaltender that's kind of hit a wall. And to me, he's not trustworthy in postseason. And that's the most important time of the year. But players are coming off the board. Transactions have been made. I was told a week ago that they had interest in John Gibson, but they didn't want to take on the contract. And they got cap issues. I understand that. They've got to negotiate in a big picture, looking long-term down road. There's a contract extension that has to come for Connor McDavid. But at the end of the day, I just don't think that you can go back after 3 years of playoff struggles in goal, go back and let Stuart Skinner be the guy. Now, they're going to have to go get another goaltender, but Gibson has since been traded to the Detroit Red Wings. So I'll just be intrigued to see what else is out there. There may be other trades that they rent a guy at this point in time that they got to solve it. I'm not saying get him off the roster completely, but I just don't think that at this point in time, and I think his cap figure is $2.3 million, so you could afford to keep him if you add somebody else. But, is it fair to McDavid and Draisaitl to continue to have these postseason problems because your goaltender can't give you solid best of 7 outings night by night when you're asked to start? To me, it's a bit of an issue.
Well, here's a comment here from Derek, and he said, "Are you guys surprised Gibson didn't go to Edmonton?"
I don't think Edmonton had the cap space to take on $6.5 million this coming season and $6.5 million the following season, because John Gibson's got 2 years left at $13 million total. And Gibson's numbers are not the spectacular numbers that Gibson used to be. Now, he was victimized because he got hurt. He's had 2 injuries 2 years in a row. He was also victimized. This is a young hockey team that was around him that couldn't hold up, and they were learning on the job and playing hard. I was so sad, and I got to know Gibson. He was here for a brief period, his first year with the San Diego Gulls. And I mean, this guy was a gamer. And the last time I saw him with the Gulls walking out of the building, and I said, "Good luck to you." And he said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "You'll be gone in 15 days. And he was gone in 15 days. And he never ever came back, became a star. And he was just a warrior in goal. But the saddest thing I saw a couple of years ago at the height of when they made this conscious decision, we're playing all the kids, he faced 30 shots in one period. In one period, 30 shots. And I think it was a home game. I couldn't believe it. And they finally pulled him out of all the misery he had to go through. And I said, this is not going to work out well. And he played and his numbers got worse and worse. And then he got hurt. He had multiple injuries. So good guy, goes to Detroit. He's going to be the guy with the Red Wings, but they've got a second and third goaltender, so he's not going to be asked to play 72 games during the course of the season. But it's too bad the way it is. But the team got old around him, and then he had to carry the team when they were playing all those 19, 20, and 21-year-old guys collectively in front of him. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm interested to see how he's going to do it. You said he went to Detroit, right?
Yes.
So, all right, we'll see how that whole thing plays out. Let's keep moving down the list. Here's from your earlier in your career when you were in Phoenix. This is from Billa. He says, "Hey, I remember you from your KTAR days. Your show was must listen in our house."
We did a lot of things in Phoenix. I had a great run for, 7 years in the Valley of the Sun. And I've told stories. We'll do it another time in another podcast. Things I said on the air, etc., that kind of lit up the Christmas tree, lit up the phone lines like you wouldn't believe. But Phoenix was not then, when I was there, what the market became. And we had the Phoenix Suns, who were just a tremendously well-run franchise under Jerry Colangelo. And they had Arizona State, which was a power in what was the fast-developing Pac-12. Before that had been the Western Athletic Conference. But there was no NFL football. There was no Major League Baseball at that point in time. So the Sun Devils and the Suns kind of carried the day. But it was such a melting pot of people from all over that when I got to Phoenix, I decided I was going to do sports talk. And I was going to do a national sports talk show, because I swear to you, 2 out of every 3 people I met came from somewhere else and had emotional attachments to Seattle or Chicago or wherever. So we did that, and the whole thing took off. So that had a really good 7-year run. Still stay in contact with a whole bunch of my friends that were at KTAR.
Now, were you in Phoenix when the Pac-8 became the Pac-10?
No, I got there afterwards. Arizona State and Arizona had already gone from the WAC into the then Pac-10, but they had both been in trouble with the NCAA probation violations and things of that in the Frank Kush era at Arizona State. And I'm trying to remember who the coach was. He was there a short time at the University of Arizona. They both got in trouble. And then Arizona State came back under Darrell Rogers and then John Cooper and really became a power in the Pac-10. And Arizona became a big-time basketball school. I mean, that was as I was leaving, Lute Olson had arrived, and holy cow, did he set a standard that has really never, ever been matched again. Tucson is big-time basketball. Phoenix has become a composite, really big pro sports team because now they got everything.
Now, I mean, you must have been right there in Phoenix right when Steve Kerr was playing for Arizona, right?
Yes.
Right about the time I think you moved to San Diego.
Yeah, it was in the era of Lute Olson. It developed under him.
Yeah.
And, Steve was a great player. But they had a ton of really good basketball players. And Lute Olson had come from the upper Midwest. I think Lute had been at Iowa. I mean, he just recruited the daylights from everywhere. And then it became a magnet. You want to be in the Pac-10, and maybe you're not everybody can go to UCLA, but holy cow, what a job he did. And he took them to a phenomenal level. And, of course, Lute just passed away, I don't know, 10 months ago. Whatever. He was a great gentleman, Mike, but a classy guy. McHale Center, home of the Wildcats. That's not a classy building to be in, but he was a classy gentleman.
I just remember when Steve Kerr played there, and whenever you hit a three, the whole crowd would just yell, Steve Kerr, just like that. And it was fantastic. Okay, let's keep moving. A little more Padre Dodgers smack talk. This is from Plum Wine. The Padres pitchers are the ones throwing behind or at the Dodgers players' heads. So I think the whiny Padres need to get a grip and stop the nonsense before someone gets killed.
Well, I'm really concerned. Like I said, that I'm really worried about the health of Tatis because he's over the plate with his stride. They have to pitch him inside because he's got such great reach and power. But he gets hit a lot, and he's getting decked because he has to bail out the last minute. My biggest fear is he's going to take one on the face, and it's really going to be serious. And you couple that with everybody throws 100 miles an hour, and half the guys throwing 100 miles an hour don't know where the hell the ball's going. So to me, it's a big issue. I don't think the 8 hits batsmen in 4 games were very intentional, though I do think Suarez plunked Ohtani. And that was a dangerous entity thing because that pitch got up and away, and it hit Ohtani in the upper back. If it went 5 inches higher, it would have hit him in the back of the neck, and that would have really been bad. So they've got to reel this angst in. But pitcher has a right to reclaim the inside part of home plate, but you can't be throwing at guys at 100 miles an hour. That's really dangerous. If you hit a guy with a changeup or a curveball in the back pocket, that's okay.
I'm always often wondered about the baseball code on this. And, Suarez probably doesn't make the decision independently that I'm going to plunk Ohtani. I bet you there's other teammates have come to him and said, hey, you got to do this. This is what's going on, right?
I think it's probably inferred, but I think also everybody knows the baseball code. That's the big issue. I hate to say eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, John, but that's been going on in baseball since the 1920s. We're very lucky. We've had only one fatality in Major League Baseball. It was in 1920. Cleveland Indians guy died, got hit in the head with a pitch, I think by a Yankee pitcher. Now, we've had other catastrophic injuries, facial injuries. Boston Red Sox star Tony Conigliaro got beamed in the eye. Never, ever the same. Took him forever. So, I understand reclaiming home plate, the inside part of the plate. I also understand you got to stand up for your teammates if something really unfair happens. I mean, the worst brawl I ever saw was a Padre Atlanta Braves brawl, and that was done by Pascual Perez because he was throwing at everybody all the time. And then when the left-hander of the Padres relief pitcher beamed him and triggered this terrible brawl that went on and on at Jack Murphy Stadium, Pascual Perez was running into the dugout so he didn't get his ass kicked. But that's part of the old baseball code. Craig Lefferts is the one that responded to Perez, who kept throwing at guys. Pedro Martinez, as great a pitcher as he was, Montreal, Boston Red Sox, other places, he threw at a lot of guys too, and there are a lot of incidents with him. So I understand the code, but guys cranking 100 miles an hour, not knowing where it's going, that's pretty dangerous.
Well, the other guy that got hit in the face was Dickie Thon. Remember him?
Exactly, and he was never the same.
No, never the same. Pardon me?
Houston Astros.
Yeah, Houston Astros, exactly. I think he was a shortstop. And Pascual Perez was one of the first ball players out there that wore a lot of the gold necklaces, I remember. And that kind of caught a lot of people off guard. Now everybody's wearing them. But that was back when the Braves would wear those like powder blue uniforms. It was kind of a cool look. But you'll sometimes every once in a while stumble across the video of that brawl. I think that was in 1984, 85, back when the Padres were really good.
You can Google it. I mean, that's the cool thing about the internet. You can go chase video. I mean, if you just video Braves, Padres, Pascual Perez, beanball brawl, you'll see it. And you won't believe how long it goes on. And I want you to watch where Perez ran, because he was running a stay at hand. And he never dropped the bat in his hand. He made a threatening gesture with the bat, and then he ran for his life. The dugout's empty. And it was really a bad situation, and I'd have to go back and look and figure out how many suspensions there were. But yeah, there were guys who were suspended, and they invoked the suspensions where you serve your 2 games, then the next guy on the roster, he serves his 2, and next guy serves his 2 after that, and everybody was shorthanded for like a week.
Well, I remember Champ Summers was in the middle of that whole thing too, with his shirt off. And by the way, remember it was the old time Dodgers Giants, and someone got plunked and they picked up the bat and ran to the pitcher and we're going to take a swing with the bat. Who was that?
His name was Juan Marichal. His name was John Roseboro. And that was
That's it.
Scary.
Yeah.
And that was pretty scary,
mm-hmm.
because they never stopped Roseboro from getting to the mound. And Marichal was ready to come off the mound and throw haymakers. And here's Roseboro swinging the stick going to the mound. It was pretty dangerous. But
that was crazy.
Yeah, there were big time suspensions that came out of that. Okay, a couple more here before we put a lid on it.
Okay, here again, more of the slap shot stuff comes up all the time. And this is from Lou. Or did we do this one last week? I don't remember. Goes to show you sometimes the actual factual truth of reality in life is more impressive than any writer making a movie could ever develop. From the second one sees the Hanson brothers trashing the soda machine, these 3 are going to be the real stars of the film. Paul Newman basically was just the straight guy in the comedy.
No, exactly. He was the glue that held it together, but the storylines are really true. And if you're a hockey follower, we did, on one of my early podcasts, we did a movie review of Slapshot. Why? Because I was there. That was the minor league I was in. I was there in the mid-'70s when the Carlson brothers, that's what their real name was, all 3 of them arrived in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and played for the Johnstown Jets. They were portrayed as the Hanson brothers with the Charleston Chiefs, but that's an offshoot of the real story. So if you just Google YouTube, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, Slapshot movie review, you won't believe it, because I think, John, we might have gone 55 minutes taking different segments and fragments of the movie and commenting on the big picture storyline. And it's odd. One of the guys in the movie just passed away. Steve Hansen, aka Steve Carlson, he just fought I'm going to say a 2-year battle with cancer survivor. One of his teammates who played for Johnstown, a guy by the name of Guido Tenisi, he played in the movie. He played Billy Charlebois, the clean-cut Hollywood-looking kid who got the black eye in the fight. He just passed away at age, I want to say 72, 73. But I'll tell you, virtually all the aspects of the story were true. Those guys going into the stands, those guys getting arrested, that happened in our building in Utica, New York, where the Johnstown Jets team went over the plexiglass, etc. So it's worth watching. It's really cool. And the movie review we did, I even got John hooked on watching the actual full movie. So watch it, but watch our movie review and then go find it. I'm sure you can get it on Netflix, etc.
Yeah, it's cool how those video segments from a couple of years ago still consistently get a lot of run on YouTube, because it's just evergreen material. It's like a cult classic, that movie.
Well, the opening shot, they have the sportscaster interviewing the Charlestown Chiefs goaltender. That was our goaltender in Mohawk Valley in the North American Hockey League, Yvon Barrett. He was from McGill University, theatrical major, French separatist, and spoke with his French brogue, and every third word was F. effing English pig. And the stuff in the beginning of the film is the exact way he spoke when he was with us in Mohawk Valley and Utica. So it's cool. I bet I've watched that movie 20 times over the course. I sit there and laugh and say, "Oh my God!" Back in the
you're
day.
in that neck of the woods right now, aren't you?
Well, this was down in Utica. I'm way up north.
Oh, you're even further north than Utica. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we can sneak one more in here. Talk a little Pac-12. This is with day one raw, because Lee, I'm a diehard Aztec fan, but you're totally wrong about Texas State. The new Pac has to navigate the circumstances of the best of their abilities and options right now. Texas State is a great fit. Texas State is willing to invest. Pac is limited in money and will only make $8 to $10 million per their new TV contract. But the new deal gives them exposure, access to Texas, and a significant improvement in football, basketball, and baseball.
Well, you can have that opinion. I just have a different opinion because I don't think Texas State brings very much to this conference. And in terms of TV viewership, which is really what TV contracts, college football are all about, they bring nothing. Nobody pays attention to Texas State except their alum. Is it a big enrollment? Yeah. But they're a former 1AA school, used to be Southwest Texas State, the Bobcats. To me, they're a non-entity. I've talked about this with other people. You know, on one side, you got San Antonio. The other side, you got Austin. Well, you got Texas Longhorns. They don't pay attention to Texas State. And Texas San Antonio has exploded in terms of its growth and their intercollegiate programs. So the people in San Marcos, Texas, yeah, they love Texas State, but I don't think it's got an impact anywhere. And their basketball program success is really negligible as compared to all things Gonzaga, all things Aztecs. So they had to have an eighth member. They took this eighth member. I would have much rather had Rice in a big TV market, Houston, which has got a chunk of heritage going back decades upon decades, than Texas State. But we'll see where it goes. By the way, I might salute you. Mark Ziegler has just written kind of a great look-see chunk in the Union Tribune. I think it's up on their website now. I knew it was coming, in which he details all the things that Texas State is and what their leadership wants. So, and I like Mark. He does great in-depth reporting. So you get a chance, go check that out. But in terms of moving the needle, I don't think so. With apologies in advance to John David Wicker, and I like those guys over there. At the end of the day, this is Mountain West 2.0. This is not the Pac-12 that we grew up loving and being so excited to see. Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA, the Arizona schools' growth, the odd good year that the Beavers or the Cougars would have at Oregon State, Washington. This is not going to be that at all. But this is who they are, and we'll just see how it grows. And if anybody wraps their arms around it, I don't buy it. John, you could argue with me, but I think you'd be wrong. Go ahead.
There's just been a lot of chatter about this. And you know, anytime we talk about conference realignment, it always gets a ton of views and comments from people on YouTube. But I think a lot of the locals there are saying, hey, man, you know, you talk about the Dodgers, the arrows pointing up. That's what they say about Texas State. So I'm willing to give these guys a shot, you know, and as an Aztec fan, you know, they're going to be making more money in this Mountain West 2.0. It's still an upgrade. So let's just see how it plays out, you know, and let's welcome Texas State to the Pac-12 with 8 teams.
If it had been me, if I were king, I would have tried to get Cal and Stanford to exit the ACC. Or if I were king, I would have found a way to get BYU to come back, because those are heritage programs with track records. But give them a kick at the can. We'll see where it goes. But check out Mark Ziegler's column that's on the website tonight. I think it's going to be printed tomorrow. He does a good job in terms of in-depth reporting. It was kind of a novel look, see it, what's going on in San Marcos, Texas. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed this podcast. I'm on the road at my cottage in upstate New York. John was back at the castle, twisting the dials and making this thing work. Good job, John. We were able to stay on without getting disconnected this time. We'll be back here Thursday, 1:30 Pacific. Hope you'll join us again. Podcast brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. Build it or fix it. You will enjoy it in 2025 with Dixieline Lumber. John, when we rejoin you Thursday, we will have NHL free agency and eye gear. We'll see if there's a trade coming with the Lakers, and we will talk Padres, Dodgers, and by the way, read my one man's opinion column I posted today, midterm report card on San Diego Padre baseball. Thumbs up or thumbs down. See what you got to say. John, have yourself a great couple days. We'll see you come Thursday.
Yeah, safe travels, Lee.
And great to have you with us. Thanks again for being part of this podcast. Make sure you tell all your friends on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast app. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.